Let's play some hockey. Tonight. Energetic, passionate, and savvy. Gouche Live. Brought to you by the good people at the Hockey News and Sports Illustrated. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the Gouche.
You're on, Gouche.
You are watching Gouche Live right here from Bequia. Yes, I'm on the island just south of St. Vincent. It is my last night here. And of course, we needed to do a Gouche Live and bring you all the exciting news. There's something about that McD guy that we're going to get into. Of course, I want to thank our sponsors, of course, the Hockey News and Sports Illustrated. Most importantly, the boys back at the bottom line. I'm there Wednesday night. I'm excited to be back. It's been a great vacation. My wife and I needed it just before I go off to Australia. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to tell you a quick story. I met a guy that I hadn't seen in 10 years playing hockey. We're walking down the street in the middle of nowhere in a small little town, Bequia. And there's my buddy that plays Pat Soden hockey. And he was standing right in front of us. And he said, "Only you, Gouche. How could I meet you on this island?" And so it was an amazing trip. All right. Thank you so much for all the support. Well, we've been gone. Nothing but sun. Make sure you check this island out. It's called Bequia. There is nothing better than this. If you're going to go down the Caribbean, I know you're going to do the usuals, Barbados and St. Lucia and all that sort of stuff. This is a gem of gems. All right, ladies and gentlemen, not in Bequia is the producer, Jordan LaRoche. He's in Toronto. What's going on, Jordan?
Not too much. We're doing well. You look like you're having a great trip down there too.
Yeah, you know what? It has been it's as you know, I'm going in 10 days. When I get back, I'll be going off to Australia. I got to tell you, Jordan, the response for my Australian trip's been outstanding. So I'm really excited about that. But more importantly, I got distracted here with a message. I don't even have my cell phone on. What's really important to understand is that, I took this at 63. Anything can happen to you, Jordan, as you know, as a young man. So I'm really excited about doing this. And I know all your support that you've helped me through it, of course, and getting ready for it. 10 days. We're going to be doing lots of stuff, talking about it. There's Tony Meal walking in the background, getting ready for our dinner. Of course, Eric Mathis and his beautiful wife got us down here. I can't show you anything because it's dark, but really excited. Listen, I know that people don't want to hear about me being down in Bequia. Let's hear about how's the weather been up there?
Miserable. I mean, the last few days has been below zero, cold, rainy. I mean, typical Toronto weather for this time of year.
I just came back from the beach, so I better make sure I'm. Well, we're on a flight tomorrow. We're excited. I'm actually excited to get back. We got lots of work to do, but I'll tell you what. There's some crazy things since I've been away. There's some crazy things that are going on, and let's dig deep into it right now. I don't think you're breaking news, but there was something said on Tim and Friends that has maybe shaken up the apple cart. And when this guy speaks, it's almost like Gretzky and of course Crosby in the back, in their days of being the stud. When they speak, people are listening. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I mean, so Connor McDavid was on Tim and Friends, I think at the tail end of last week. And they started talking about overtime rules, and the NFL has made some recent changes to their overtime structure in recent years, and maybe the NHL might be maybe a little slacky in that kind of department. So he came out and said no one loves the shootout. It's a crappy way to finish a game, and that's just kind of that was the main argument when it came to football, because the one team that receives the ball, they have the one chance to go down the field and score. And that's it. The other team has no chance to answer back or try and match the score. But with the NHL, the shootout might be a little bit dated now, because we brought that in to kind of speed things up for the 4-on-4 shootout. But now that we do the 4-on-4 overtime, now we do the 3-on-3 overtime. It speeds up that offense. Maybe we prolong that a little bit more and just totally get rid of the shootout.
Right. And you know what? I think when somebody would ask me, Gouche, what do you think? Are you asking me that question?
Yep.
What do I think? I think it's the right move. Listen, the shootout's been great, but it can go into 8, 10, 12 rounds. Really gets boring at times watching these guys do it. They're very talented individuals. And you're going to talk to me about some stats. And I would believe these stats are very accurate. If they extend it to that 10 minutes, you're going to see teams not holding back in that first 3 or 4 minutes to get a tie, right? So that's really important. But I think also what's really important is that teams will also realize if they don't go get that win in the first 5 minutes, they go into a lull. Obviously, you're going to see Connor McDavid more. You're going to see, something wrong with my mic?
Yeah. While you figure that out, I mean, Kevin Bieksa also had some comments about it. He kind of doubled down on Connor McDavid's statement. You'll say it would be great for a viewer experience, but the main concern here is, sorry, Gouche, you good?
Is that any better?
Not really, but I think it'll be okay. It'll be okay. Yeah. So the main concern is the workload, right? I mean, obviously having to play a longer 3-on-3 game, I mean, just puts more players at risk, and I think players already have that high workload. But the East Coast Hockey League back in 2019 and 2020 actually went to a 7-minute overtime 3-on-3, just as a kind of experiment to kind of see if it would wrap up games quicker, see if we can actually get rid of the shootout entirely. And they posted some recent kind of findings and from this kind of trial period, and 20% of the games went to overtime, 78% ended in overtime compared to 61% season before, and then 22% went to a shootout compared to almost 40% the year after. So 25 games ended between the 5 and 7 minute mark in overtime, which would ended a shootout. I mean, that's a quarter of the games that don't need the shootout at the end of the game, which again just speeds everything up. 3-on-3 now is probably the best spot's ever been in terms of skill, the speed, and just what as in terms of a viewer experience. So it's exciting to see, and hopefully the NHL can actually maybe experiment with this in the future too.
Is this working any better?
No, but I don't think we can get it. I'm not sure what happened. I just kind of flipped on a switch there.
Yeah, well, I'm on an island, so I apologize. I'll keep my answers short. I like to hear, obviously, you put together a heck of a show. One of the things I want to say is I think teams are going to understand if you're getting more of Connor McDavid in overtime in that particular situation, or an Evander Kane, or a Austin Matthews and a Marner, those teams that are at that lower end of the totem pole are going to realize, hey, we got to end this early, because if we let it drag into the 10-minute mark, we may lose. So let's try and when you start opening up, you know what happens, Jordan, it gives scoring opportunities. What are your thoughts on that analyzation?
Yeah, and I mean, we brought in the shootout because the 4-on-4 overtime was just going on forever and there wasn't enough offense. But as soon as we go to the 3-on-3, that opens up the door for a lot more offense and just a lot more exciting play than a 4-on-4. So there's a lot more opportunities to score, and I think we got to get to a point now where we have to adjust for that, and getting rid of the shootout seems like the logical option, and extending that 5-minute 3-on-3. McDavid suggested 10 minutes. ECHL has been doing 7. I think somewhere between that 7 and 10 minute mark would be perfect.
Listen, they're going to listen. I can guarantee you. Yep. It's made noise. I think some of the players are also going to rally around Connor McDavid. And when you look at the numbers with the AHL, it makes sense. All right, hey, listen. And of course, Connor McDavid has hit 83 points in 45 games. Who wouldn't listen to a dude like that? And they're not just normal 83 points. Some of these are take me out of my seat type of, and he has certainly put himself into an elite company. We know the Gretzky story. We know, of course, the Crosby story. He's just off the charts right now. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I mean, 35 goals in 43 games so far. He's on pace for 66, which hasn't been done since Mario Lemieux in 95 and 96.
Good number.
And I mean, it just blows his previous career high out of the water. I mean, his previous career high in goals was 44, I believe it was last season. And to jump up 22 goals in a matter of an off season is ridiculous. Which puts him on pace for 150 points, the highest since Lemieux had in that same season, 95-96, where he had 163. We one of 5 players that hit 150 points. And on top of that, he's had 7 games with 4 or more points this year. He had the 3-point night on Friday against San Jose as well. But what he's been able to do this year, it puts him firmly in the spot to win the Hart. We're only halfway through the year, but this is a pretty clear dry and cut case.
Well, another addition that's really going to help him because he played very well with Evander Kane last year. He's ready to come back into the lineup. That creates some issues for the Edmonton Oilers. Obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about what their needs are, but certainly bringing back a player of that quality means somebody's going to be taken out of this lineup, and it has to be.
So there's three guys we're looking at right now: Derek Ryan, Warren Foegele, and it's kind of tough to say, but Jesse Puljujarvi as well. And for I'll go into Derek Ryan, Warren Foegele quickly, but I mean, all three of those guys have really struggled at to be a kind of that two-way forward that they were kind of brought in to do. I mean, Derek Ryan gets some good time on the penalty kill, so it's a really tough situation here because not only are they paying Puljujarvi and Foegele more than Derek Ryan, it's just going to put them in an even more tough cap situation than they're already in. But for Jesse Puljujarvi's case, we had some comments about him from him. Sorry, that maybe the NHL is not for him. He wants to be this elite goal scorer. He believes he can. He's just maybe not in the NHL. So if we're looking at this guy, if he gets sent down the AHL, goes on waivers, this is a very possible that he doesn't even come back to the NHL after this.
Or he goes to a team that he's given an opportunity to play with some players that are as open. We know he's been up with Connor. We know that all that story. But, sometimes fresh coat of paint makes the house look better. So let's see what goes on with that. And, of course, as that's all going on, the Edmonton Oilers know if they want to go deep in the playoffs, they're going to need some defense, help on that defense. And, of course, the names like Matt Dumba. I know that Erik Karlsson is on the list. I think Erik Karlsson may be out of the price tag. Talk to me about what you've heard from the NHL world. I think somebody from San Jose Hockey Now has come up and made a statement that it's pretty dear.
Yep. So Shang Peng from San Jose San Jose Hockey Now. He was listening to the Oilers game the other day, and Bob Stauffer, the color commentator for the Edmonton Oilers, he just kind of, I don't know if he meant to say it or there's no way to totally know if this is 100% true, but he kind of came out and said, in a perfect world, the return for Erik Karlsson is going to be 3 first-round picks, and they will retain 18% of Erik Karlsson's $11.5 million cap hit, which goes until, I think it's 25, 26. Peng also believe that they'll probably have to retain more. The most the team can retain is 50%. For an 11.5 cap hit for 3-4 more years of Erik Karlsson, you probably have to retain a little bit more than that. So that is a pretty big asking price for a guy who has a lot of term left. So this will heat up over the next few weeks.
Well, I'll tell you what, the Edmonton Oilers, it's now, right? You've heard it from Connor McDavid. Of course, Leon Draisaitl have said their window's closing. And so, my window almost closed. Sorry, a bug flew by me. But listen to this for a second. Think about this. Yes, they may have a little bit right now for Erik Karlsson. The way he's playing is completely out of this world. He gets in that lineup, that power play, that penalty killing, the 5-on-5 completely changes. There's no question. So they may take this opportunity and show their two studs that, listen, we hear you. It's now. We're making now happen. And I agree with you. They're going to have to take more salary back. There's no question. But it may be the price they need to pay to get an elite player that's probably got 2, max 3 years left. And the last couple parts of his contract may be just thrown out. If the Edmonton Oilers come back and obviously go deep in the playoffs, it's worth the price.
Yeah, and while that does seem like the obvious call for Erik Karlsson to go to a team like Edmonton, specifically with Erik Karlsson, I don't know if he's necessarily the right choice for a team like Edmonton, who is already in a really, really tight cap spot. I mean, they have $9 million on their long-term injury reserve right now, and then Oscar Klefbom, who's retired, and Mike Smith, who's probably not going to play for the Oilers again. Evander Kane carries a $5 million cap hit, so that their salary cap space, I mean, is almost zero right now. So
Right.
it's be really tough for Edmonton to make that move.
All right, there's other things going on in the National Hockey League outside of obviously Connor McDavid. What's happening at Ottawa Suns?
Yeah, we also have rumors about Matt Dumba, another defenseman, which we'll get to in a little bit as well. But from the Ottawa Sun, Birch Garrioch claiming the Ottawa Senators were among teams interested in Matt Dumba. He's a solid 28-year-old defenseman who's good, who can provide some offense, but it's just be really tough to play against defensively. And for this Ottawa Senators team, I think it's a perfect match. If you look at that team, the offense is there. The goaltending could be a little bit better, but the decor is really what jumps out to you. So the Minnesota Wild would need a defenseman back. It's going to be a pretty decent price. So if you're looking for Ottawa's case, it's going to be a couple picks and probably a prospect. I wouldn't say they would trade someone like Drake Batherson, but it's going to be someone almost to that level.
Well, I'll tell you what, obviously the Wild are in a need of a change. Dumba wants out, certainly Ottawa Senators. But I think there's going to be other teams when it gets closer to that trade deadline that are going to be looking. Listen, quality defense are very, very tough to find in the National Hockey League, and their prices are just going to be skyrocketing. So it will be very interesting to see where he ends up. You got some more news coming out of Philadelphia. One of the things before we get into that, Torts. He's back to his old self. He's taking away the iPad. Hey, I hope he takes away this iPad. It's not working properly. But he has just got this team. He gets in their heads. Like it's completely discombobulated. What is he doing? What is he thinking?
I don't know, Gouche. And I mean, it's I tend to usually like that kind of in your face old style hockey guy. And more than anything, it's comedy. But at the end of the day, I don't know if it's really going to help the team. I don't know if it's going to hurt the team. It's be really tough to say. But iPad Gate, as it's being called now across the NHL, it's a pretty big topic, and I think it could be something other teams might look at. I mean, we saw last season Mika Zibanejad was looking at an iPad on the bench. Chris Kreider snags it out of his hand, throws it on the ground, and maybe it's a distraction. Maybe it's players tending to overthink things. But I feel like getting rid of a distraction like that could open up the doors for some guys to maybe if they're second guessing themselves or just maybe a little too critical on themselves. So I think this is a great thing.
What's next? Get rid of those ads on the boards for the fans because it's freaking confusing. I was watching last night. But there may be some defensive move here.
Yeah. So from the Philadelphia Inquirer, Gianna Hines said that the NHL Network also said it as well, but the Flyers are looking at trading Ivan Provorov, a good young defenseman on that roster. It started out really strong, but kind of faltering it in recent weeks. But for a guy like Ivan Provorov, you're looking at a first-round pick, 2 more pieces on top of that. This guy's 25 years old. He's still got a lot of room to grow, but already playing at a pretty high level. So he's signed until 24, 25. Philadelphia is still listening to calls on him. They're not sure if they'll move him this year. There isn't really much pressure to, but he does want to remain a Flyer. So this is something to watch out for the next few months. I'm
being harassed over bug spray. There's actually big mosquitoes. These mosquitoes they're bigger and not bigger. They're hungrier than the ones in Winnipeg, I'll tell you that. And obviously at Muskokas, they're eating them a lot. I haven't got one mosquito bite, knock on wood. So they're they look like they've got the measles. Hey, listen, sorry, buddy. Some stars this week. Lucas Raymond, you and I both like him. Nicholas Ehlers back in the lineup. Winnipeg Jets are looking very good. Last night, of course, our buddy Pierre Dubois had a good game. And, of course, Blake Wheeler scores the winner. So my Jets are looking good. And then there's Martin Jones, all the 3 stars. But Martin Jones has not been overly great this season.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
Oh, there's something in my ear. Gouche, reread the notes. Martin Jones has been very good for the Seattle Seahawks. He's gone 3-0, 1 point. No, I expect him to be your numbers, like 1.5, not this 1.67 stuff. That's ridiculous.
My numbers were a 3.0, but no, I mean, Martin Jones this week has just been on an absolute tear. 3-0 and 0, 167 goals against, and a 933 save percentage just this week. Posted back-to-back shutouts against Montreal and the league-leading Boston Bruins, as on a 7-game win streak for himself. But many think Martin Jones' best days are behind him, so I don't blame you for that comment, Gooch. But
hey, he shut out the Boston Bruins.
Yep.
And he's taken Grubauer's spot right at this moment. Pretty good.
Yeah, and for a former Vezina nominee, a guy's getting paid $5.9 million for Martin Jones to just come in and take the net from him. I mean, just stole his starter's job. Is really a definitely something to note as well. But the Seattle Kraken are only 2 points out of the first spot for the Pacific Division, and Martin Jones has been a huge part of that.
All right, well, talk to me a little bit about where you see that ending up. Obviously, Seattle looks like they may vie for a playoff spot.
Yep.
They're going to knock somebody out that nobody thought they would. And if Jones falters, they can go back to Grubauer. I apologize. I think Seattle's in a better position than what we thought going into the season. And I'll tell you what, they're turning heads.
I mean, 100%. I mean, guys like Vince Dunn have really stepped up. Jordan Eberle, Jaden Schwartz, and Matty Beniers. Beniers has just been remarkable. Everything that's been advertised and so much more. I mean, for a guy in his first full NHL season to put in the work that he's done in Seattle on a team that still has a long way to go, still has a lot of pieces to put together. I mean, it really is incredible. But with Martin Jones and their goaltending, Martin Jones, even though he's been good, we know just as quickly he can turn that around and have a real stinker of a month. So hopefully Grubauer can turn things around, and hopefully Martin Jones can keep things going because this is a really good hockey team.
And it's great to watch. Hey, you're watching Gouche Live right here. I'm in Beckway. Jordan is at his home office. For the bottom line, of course, the locker room. We're so excited to be bringing you some of this information. We're talking and wrapping it up with the three stars. Raymond, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points in 3 games. Very deserving of a star, no question.
Yeah, and I mean, considering he had a really slow start to the year, I think he had like 4 assists in his first 12 games. This is a guy who needs to be providing goals, contributing offensively to really make an impact on this Red Wings team. And this is a guy who finished off last year with around, I think 55, 57 points. He's on pace for 60 this year. So it is a bit of an improvement, but he's on pace for more goals than he was last year, which is the big thing that Detroit was looking for. So like I said, over his last 12 games, 6 goals and 14 points. This guy is a true goal scorer, and he's just been thriving with Detroit's top line with guys like Tyler Bertuzzi and good Lord, I just drew a blank on the other winger.
Yeah. Well, and of course, they've got good defensive work. I like this team. We've talked about it before. The Detroit Red Wings are a team that's very similar to the Buffalo Sabres. We've talked about this before. They've made some moves that they're going to be stronger than we think in the next couple of years. Right now, they're looking very, very effective. And I'll tell you what, Lucas Raymond deserves all the status with a 26-goal projection for this year. I'll tell you what, the Detroit Red Wings would be very happy with that. All right, we're moving on to the final star, and it is.
I messed up on the notes there. I did say Nikolai Ehlers, but it's actually Nikita Kucherov.
It should be Ehlers.
I do agree with that. He was on fire this week, but Nikita Kucherov with 7 points in 3 games played. I think he beats out Nikolai Ehlers because probably name factor more than anything by the NHL. But like I said, Tampa Bay 3-0 this week, have 4 points in a 6-3 win against Columbus on the 20th. Kucherov's 21st 4-point performance, only second amongst NHL active players, only behind Connor McDavid. And for Tampa Bay, maybe a bit of a shaky year, but we were saying this last year about this team, and they just blew us away in playoffs. So I'm taking their start with a grain of salt, and I just know that they're gonna be back in the playoffs and just back on top of the league.
Well, they've always been there. They've done such a masterful job of they lose a part, they find another part. And Kucherov and obviously Stamkos, we know are the big people there, but we've always talked about Hagel going there. Obviously, Nick Paul going there. They always seem to find those players that can fill a spot. I don't want to call it a Band-Aid. I think it's a crack in the armor. They go in and get cement to fix it. And that's why they've been so successful. And I'll tell you what, looking at the stats, sitting in third, I do believe this team's going to go on a run. They need Kucherov to keep playing. They need Vasilevsky maybe to step it up a little bit, even though his numbers are still very good. I think there's more in him, and he can turn up. And one of the things that people sometimes tend to forget, we're talking about the Seattles. They haven't been in a long playoff run. They don't know what it takes to win at that level. Sometimes you have to lose to learn to win. And I think the Tampa Bay Lightning will be able to notch it up a gear at the end of the season, going into the playoffs, maybe needing to, get a couple more points when they need it. They know when to turn it on and turn it off, and specifically in the playoffs. This team is built for that.
100%. And I mean, just look at them last year. I mean, we're saying this stuff about them at this time last year as well. They were they were on top of the division. They were kind of battling out for second and third in the Atlantic Division, but and they make it to the Stanley Cup final. They're right back where they were last year. I have to believe this team just goes on a run the second half of the year, make some trades at the deadline, and bolster up for the playoffs.
Hey, don't forget you're watching Gouche Live. I got a Gouche Live in a minute and 29 coming out. I don't know if you saw the one about my Minnesota Vikings. Vikings lose. We're going to leave that on one away because our next topic is going to be this one, and I'm really excited. Canucks Rutherford, major surgery needed on this roster. They're in a pickle with the Horvat deal. We'll talk about that because I'll tell you what, they eked out a really important win last night. Obviously, Gino Ojic had passed. Ethan Bear scored a very important and a very emotional goal, and we know what happened. They won in a shootout. They scored, I think, with 17 seconds. Could that be the defining moment to change things around? There's Talkett replacing Boudreau. How does that factor in? Look forward to you putting some notes. I want to know. Let's dig in deep what's going on in Vancouver.
All right. Sounds good.
Ladies and gentlemen, the producer, the one and only, Jordan LaRoche.
See you, Gouche.
All right, I am on a flight tomorrow. I will be back in Toronto tomorrow night and back down and to do the dirty and work really hard and bring you the best shows. Obviously, there's going to be some changes. As you know, I'll be going off to Australia. I will be doing a Gouche Live once a week. Jordan will be joining me, and we'll be talking everything about what went on the week before and, of course, what's coming on in the week. So you're not going to get rid of this ugly face. I'm excited. I'm inspired, and I hope you stick with us. Hey, it's been Gouche Live right here from Beckway. Next week or this week coming up, I'll be back at the bottom line bringing you some great shows. So enjoy. Thank you to the Hockey News and, of course, Sports Illustrated and Wayne Kelly and everybody at the bottom line. The Gouche is back.
You've been listening to Gouche Live with your host, Kerry Goulet, better known as The Gouche, brought to you by the Hockey News and Sports Illustrated.